Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us this evening. We're so excited to have you in this semi-annual partnership we always have between AMA and CSVC. For those of you who I haven't met yet, my name is Nima Farshchi. I'm the director of the Center for Social Value Creation here at the Smith School. Our mission is to educate, engage, and empower our students to create a better world through business. And we're so excited to showcase how four of our wonderful community members make this impact being in marketing and have a positive impact on society. Like Gabriel said, I'd love to pass it off to PK Kanan, our Dean's Chair in Marketing Science here at the Smith School. PK, you can take it away.
Okay, great. And I'm very glad that we have four panelists who are able to join us, and two of them are alumni from our undergraduate program, one from our part-time online MBA program, and one is currently in the full-time MBA program, all right? And so I'm glad to have you all. So what we want to do is I want to keep this more conversational, and the idea here is to kind of understand from you some things as to what shaped you on your way to the marketing career that you are in or you're going to be in. And, it could be some interests that you developed either when you were at UMD or when you were, graduated from UND and when. So the first question that I want to really focus on is, here he's putting it on. So the first question that we have is, how did your time at UMD really, or it could be beyond UMD? How did that really shape your career path in marketing? So let me go to Lauren W. to go with first, and then we will move on to the others.
Great, thank you, PK. So I'm Lauren Wittig. I'm currently the Director of Global Partnerships at We.org. So that's a Canadian-based nonprofit and social enterprise that I've been at about 3 years, and currently I'm working remotely over in Seattle. So great that I've been able to be more involved with Maryland from afar and virtually. So nice to meet all of you tonight. I graduated from Maryland in 2013 with the other Lauren as well. And I majored in marketing and supply chain management and also did the Design Fellows program with Professor Hearns. And I feel my classes helped me a lot in terms of finding out what I wanted to do. I think that the Design Fellows program in particular really helped solidify my passion for marketing and being involved in helping consult in different businesses, but also being involved in other types of clubs like AMA or CSVC on my Thailand trip, like all of you are, Phi Chi Theta, etc., really helped to solidify kind of a taste test of different types of organizations. And I think events like this, hearing from different speakers that have a variety of everything, really solidified my passion for me. So a couple events that stuck out to me at undergrad, one was with Unilever, and doing sustainability workshop with them, which is where I ended up working for a couple of years. Another was with the Ad Council and really solidified my desire to do social impact work and develop a social impact career. So I think Maryland has helped a lot in really finding my way and energizing me with doing good in the world. And I think besides those foundational things, it's also the network and being able to have people like this and Nima that bring you in and get you involved and are looking out for you and helping you as you go, as you do with others. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. Now let's go to Lauren K. Please give an introduction to where you are, like Lauren did, and then we'll go on with the question. Yep.
Sure, thank you. So for anyone who's just joining now, I'm based in New York. I am the director of marketing for a hospitality group here. The restaurants that I oversee are Little Beat Table, and now we run the entire US franchise for Le Pain Quotidien. If that's hard to pronounce for anyone, a lot of us call it LPQ. If you've been, it's delightful. So been here for the last 4 years and took kind of a winding route to get here. So I actually majored in supply chain and business management undergrad. Wasn't a marketing major, but my minor, or like my fellowship, was the social innovation fellows, right? Was that what it was called? Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Nima. And that was a life-changing experience for me at UMD. And it really helped me figure out, like, I guess post-graduation, it helped me stay on track with my gut of like what feels right to be a part of and what doesn't. So for instance, my first job out of college was in operations, steered me more towards the sustainability side of it, operations, because of course I was studying social responsibility in business. And because of that hub in the Center for Social Value Creation within the business school, I felt like I was surrounded by the do-gooders who were seeing business as a vehicle to do good and give back to the world. And it was such a unique community. And the Social Innovation Fellows, and I was a founding team member to create the Social Enterprise Symposium. I don't know if that's still going on. I'm getting some nods. No, okay. That was a really fun experience too. So there were all of these different events that we were doing, and like community orientations that we were doing, and the trip to Thailand to study corporate social responsibility when in our last year of college really helped guide a lot of those decisions for me. So right out of college, I landed in a CPG company doing operations and sustainability, but it still wasn't necessarily like natural to my core. And so I was kind of experimenting, and took about a year and a half taking on tons of different opportunities. I landed on a remote island off the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua to go woofing. I can't say everyone's faces, but I'm sure you guys are familiar with like organic farming in different parts of the world. And really helped me understand that I don't want to be on the CPG side of things where I'm, working with products that might have crazy amounts of chemicals and pesticides and all of these things, because it wasn't natural to who I was and my values. But helped me understand that I really liked getting my hands dirty. I liked being part of a more natural supply chain and a more natural cycle. So I was liaising between the farm and the kitchen. So, we literally were getting our hands dirty every day, and taking part more in like the organic side of how to nourish people, very different than the company I had been positioned at before that. And that actually led me to this hospitality group that focuses on wellness-oriented brands and incubates wellness-oriented brands. And right before I landed at this company, I spent a lot of time at the Center for Social Innovation in New York City. And my path really took me on all these different adventures where different fellows from the Social Innovation Fellowship at the Center for Social Value Creation would pop up along my journey, like Nima, and kind of just like be little reminders here and there of like, stay the course, trust your gut, you're in the right direction. And now I landed in this job that really helps me feel like I am giving back to our community by really truly nourishing people with our product and not worrying too much about the GMOs in it.
Great. Yeah, I have a few more follow-up questions later on for you, and
Okay.
I think it's really going to get into some of those things that you talked about.
Great.
Let's go to Catherine. Catherine, please, the floor is yours, and please let us know where you are at this point and how did you get into this marketing career in the first place?
Sure. So, hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Montgomery. I graduated from UMD with my MBA in December of 2019. I can't believe it's been almost a year. That's like insane. I currently live in Boston. So the last semester or so of my journey to get my MBA was online. So I got to do a part-time program as well as the online program. I currently work at 617 Media Group, which is a progressive communications agency in the Boston area. And I recently was promoted to the Chief Experience and Success Officer, which a lot of people don't know what that is, but it focuses on our employees as well as our clients to just make sure they have a great experience when they're working with us. Overall, the agency focuses on marketing and public relations, from digital and print advertising, marketing materials, writing, rallies, protest events, you name it, we do it. And so when I started at UMD, I already was in marketing. My undergrad degrees were in marketing and public relations, and I had worked in that field since I graduated in undergrad. So it wasn't new to me to want to focus on marketing when getting my MBA. But kind of similar to Lauren, I believe Lauren Kay, I was working a lot with large corporations that maybe weren't doing the best for the world. And at the time, I didn't mind, they had tons of money. I was able to travel all over the world. It was really great life experiences. And as I earned my MBA, as I witnessed what was going on in the country, I realized that I needed to do something to just make a difference. And I wanted to focus my career more so on helping people through marketing rather than helping the big guys who already had, the means to make a good impact in the world. So that's the reason I did move to Boston, was to find an agency and to do marketing where we were actually helping other people. And being at UMD really helped me gain the skills to know overall what it takes to run a business. And I think it's helped me succeed not only in fulfilling my need to help the world, even if it's a small amount through my work, but to also, advance in my career. And essentially, my role, we kind of made it for me. And I'm the only person at the agency who has an MBA. And I'm able to do that to, really help us understand what it takes to be successful and make sure that we continue helping others throughout the community.
Great. That's fantastic, actually. And I will come back to you because, you said in December 19, you graduated, and, soon after that, the pandemic hit. But we will come back and, explore some of that issue as to how you handled it. Let's go to Neha now. Neha, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. PK. Nice to see you again. So I am currently an MBA student at University of Maryland. So I'm talking to you from College Park. When it comes to my journey, I am actually a computer engineer by background, and I've had a couple of here and there's where I figured out, what I really wanted to achieve and do. I was in, I think, my second year of the engineering program, and just wanted to go beyond just coding and started volunteering for a couple of organizations that focused on recycling and sustainability in India. Eventually ended up working there as the business strategy and market strategy manager. Essentially, the idea was to showcase products and services that made recycling easy for people like us in our house, at our office, at your kids' school. Yeah, then came for the MBA program here after about 5 years of working there. My concentration is in marketing, so I've been learning a lot. So it's not, for me, the education path is not over yet. Very recently, we had the digital marketing class with Dr. PK, which was absolutely amazing. I think it was extremely applicative in terms of what we learned. And definitely the marketing concentration in the MBA program at Smith gives us that opportunity. Apart from that, NEMA and CSPC have been great for me. Over the summer, I was an intern at eBay as the business operations manager. Essentially making a plan for their Q4 was my role. But being a platform that's online, a lot of it simply was, looking at impressions and thinking about how the conversion is happening. So, you were always looking at it from a very marketing and a campaigns implementation angle. And I also did a fellowship with Inspiring Capital. A lot of it was inspiration working with NEMA and working with CSPC, where we were about 10 MBA students coming together and talking about the various business cases on how we can basically implement social entrepreneurship at the highest level in the States. So yeah, I'm still learning when it comes to marketing, but I think UMD has been great in terms of really making me concentrate on what I want to do. It's being, now with everything going digital, I think it's all the more accelerating.
Okay, great. Now, several of you talked about how you started off with a particular company, maybe a CPG, and then moved. So I want to, kind of explore, let's say that I am, doing something in marketing, or I'm doing something in management, and I really do want to have this angle of, community outreach and trying to be doing good for the community. So what advice would you give to students who wants to pursue a career in marketing / with the orientation towards what we are talking about here, giving back to community and social value creation. So certainly with all your experiences, it wasn't, directly going into a job like that. It seemed like you had to move a little bit and, position yourself in that space. So what kind of advice would you give to students? So let's start with Lauren W.
Great, thanks, PK. Great to hear all of the other panelists too and the variety of experiences. For me personally, I think I would say it's kind of limitless and you can create your own path no matter where you are. So for instance, when I was at Unilever, I started with a sales and marketing rotational program, was in stores, calling on products, was with retailers, was with different brands. So to your point, PK, not necessarily social impact roles, but I was fortunate to be at a company that was committed to doing good in the world. And so given that was where my interest was, I really advocated for myself within my leadership, within my peer teams, within my different opportunities with employee business resource groups and things like that, to be able to share my passion for doing good, to be able to advocate and get into different opportunities kind of extracurricularly. So for instance, in one of my roles, I led an Enactus Business Resource Group, which is a college organization focused on case studies for making impact and positive outcomes. So by doing so, I was then placed in different roles at Unilever that were focused on the sustainability team because I had kind of founded my interest even though I wasn't in that role to start. And then after a couple of years at Unilever, I was in a sales role out in California and really wanted to get closer to the core of social impact. And so I focused on trying to get a role within Unilever. And when that wasn't feasible at the time, I decided to, similar to Lauren, go traveling. And I did 7 months, 35 countries, and just cold outreach to different social impact leaders and nonprofits, NGOs, et cetera, to just meet people, get a coffee, get a beer, whatever they wanted to do, wherever they were, and share with me the good that they were doing around art or climate or youth education. And that really helped catapult me into knowing this is where I want to be. I want to be with corporations because I do feel there can be a great scale there, but I also want to be with nonprofits and kind of marrying the two to create even bigger impact. So that's what brought me to my current organization 3 years ago, where I manage partnerships like Walgreens, Unilever, Hershey, et cetera. And I would say continue to develop yourself while you're there. I'm continuing to look for new opportunities or learn new things, even though I am closer to the field that I want to be right now, and doing things like writing a book or joining different organizations that you can meet like-minded people. So I would say it's great. I mean, just being here shows that you're really passionate about impact and making the world better. Surrounding yourself by people like that and really believing in yourself that you can do it no matter where you are.
Fantastic, thank you. Let's go to Lauren K. What's your experience been?
Well, before I share my experience, Lauren W. is too humble to say this, but she recently published her first book about her experience traveling the world. I'll drop a link to it in the chat at some point before it's over, but it's a really cool book and you guys should check it out.
In fact, I did do a Google on her and I found this book online and I wasn't sure it was the same person who did this or somebody else because it said author and that's what I said. It sort of threw me off. But I didn't want to make myself that's great.
Such support. Thank you.
There's some search engine optimization working in her favor. Yeah. So for me, I mean, Lauren hit on a ton of great points. I think another really important one to me is just that virtue of patience. So for instance, when I decided to go abroad, I didn't necessarily have a plan, and you have to be, have a significant amount of privilege to be able to kind of take off with, a lack of a long-term plan. So when I got back, I ended up, moving back in with my parents. Again, have the privilege of parents who, have enough room to take me back in. And for at least 6 months was taking on volunteer positions. So one of those volunteer positions for me was knowing very intentionally that I was trying to transition away from the supply chain side of sustainability and towards the corporate responsibility side of sustainability. And what comes very naturally to me, which I kind of read through some self-development workshops, was community building and community organization. And so I landed at the Center for Social Innovation in New York City. And if anyone's familiar with the city or is an upper grad, you may have spent time there, because similarly to Social Innovation Fellows, it's really like a hub for do-gooders in New York City. It's a co-working space where organizations that want to benefit the world come together. So there's a ton of really inspiring entrepreneurs, young leaders, like amazing leadership experience there. And I actually volunteered with CSI for 6 months or maybe even more to help them build out a vertical. So they had all these different verticals, and the one they wanted to build was called the Women's Lab. And it was a vertical that brought in organizations that benefited girls and women. So it was, again, building community, generating community, building the values of that community. If anyone's interested in community building, a really good book on that is The Art of Gathering. But either way, it was time spent volunteering, so it wasn't necessarily a payday, but it completely helped me shift my narrative. And another lesson I learned on top of patience is owning your story and owning your narrative. My brother taught me this lesson as I was, going through different interviews, to try to very intentionally shift away from what I was doing and towards something I wanted to be doing more of. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not the easiest challenge to take on. It can be really challenging, which is why patience comes in handy. But what happened for me is, my brother gave me this lesson that, let's say, my job at PepsiCo, where I had started, was 60% supply chain and 40% sustainability. When I was looking for roles in CSR, I spoke to the sustainability part. And if they asked me about supply chain, I really continued to push hard on that narrative of sustainability. And my passion came through very naturally. And I've been reading this book. I think it's To Shake the Sleeping Self. And it starts off by saying that really funny, like, duality of, we have these lessons taught to us by our parents and society, like, go get that job, go do what you're supposed to do, but also like follow your passion and like trust your gut. And they're like, it's such a dichotomy and such contrasting messages that sometimes we get to really important moments in our lives and our careers and our journeys, and we're like, which one am I supposed to do? What I'm supposed to do or what I want to do? So I think, one of those lessons I learned is to not be too strict with myself or too rigid with myself those first few years out of school, and really trust myself to understand where the journey is going to take me. And really, truly, deeply listen to my gut, because I took a few different positions and opportunities where I blatantly ignored what my gut was telling me. And it ended up not being in my best interest, and ended up, being something I wanted to walk away from sooner than later. So I don't think we teach that lesson enough, that your gut can really tell you where you're supposed to go next.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine. And I also want you to kind of discuss a little thing, as to what your experiences has been in your role, even within the pandemic, context.
Sure. And I'm learning so much from the Laurens. So this is like just as much for me, but patience, Lauren Kay, is exactly what, I was going to focus on, not settling. And there are always careers out there that focus on what your dreams are, when you are what you're trying to achieve in marketing. And don't ever discount an opportunity as not being good enough or not the right fit. It's better to learn from everyone you can, because we all have different perspectives, as I just stated with the Laurens, and different experiences that can lead us in the right direction. It took me, as I mentioned, several years to find out my passion was not only in marketing, but in who I represented it when I was marketing. And I've worked for some of the largest corporations in the world, while at various communications agencies, and got to see the world. And but those experiences allowed me to realize that bigger isn't always better. And I'm supporting the little guys now, and they are the ones who need it. And each day I know that my work in marketing is making the world a little bit better. So it's okay that I went through those years of working at different corporations, because it led me here. and I know what it takes in campaigns to beat them. And so I really appreciate that. And, coming into this position and, working remotely after COVID started, it was a big shift because a lot of our clients did tons of in-person rallies and, campaigns, and we supported marches, March for Our Lives, and all these different things. And now we were just stuck at home. And so we had to be really innovative in how we marketed to get the message out and to win campaigns. And one of those is now we do car caravans, and we do, and people ride their bikes beside the cars. And then we have Zooms, and people, park their cars and give their message inside their car from Zoom, or we social distance outside of the State House, or, whatever it is. But we have learned to really rely on using social distance, and also digital marketing has become even more important. You can see how important it is in the campaigns, and it was already a real big use when, for presidential campaigns, for any campaign you have to win, but it really, people are online so much more now that it's vital to communicate to our audiences through those means. So just changing up our marketing a little bit, but being adaptive is key, and been able to really stretch our imaginations, I think, which has been a lot of fun.
Right.
Although there's COVID.
No, I think we should be at the end of it fairly soon, hoping for the best. Let's go to Neha. Neha, now you can take this and fashion it the way you want, because you're still in the program. So I'll let you some leeway as to how you want to answer this question.
Absolutely. And I think, Lauren W., Lauren K., and Catherine, I think you covered pretty much everything. I am probably facing it now as I'm going through the whole job search process, as I went through the internship process. But there were a couple of things that I always kept in mind. One of them was, for me, the company was super important, especially coming into the MBA program. So I definitely wanted to be a part of the company where they were, probably really high on the sustainability index, because that was something that was super important to me. So that, when I was always applying for applications, that's something I kept in mind. When it came to a career in marketing, I feel it's twofold. Companies more and more are now going towards doing business with good. A lot of times earlier, especially in India, we used to partner with these big CPG firms to represent their CSR programs. And we used to partner with the communications team who were solely focused on the sustainability aspect of it, or the recycling aspect of it. And, a part of me really wanted to talk to them more and really understand their job, because I felt like even being the communications director, that person was doing, they were making a lot more impact at a very high level. So, that's something definitely to look at as a student, especially. I would strongly encourage you to also think about the theoretical aspects that we learn in school. And apologies, because I'm still a student, I have a lot of, all these things in mind, very fresh. But I think, especially as the world is moving towards a more digital aspect, making sure that you sort of understand how probably impressions work or how KPIs work are really important, how people are innovating, using design thinking in your approach, be it your resume styling, your work approach, or how you probably structure your interviews. I think all of these things definitely help. And in the end, again, as mentioned by the other panelists, it's about owning your story, making sure you sort of really portray what you want to do, how you want to make your work meaningful, and that's what employers as well are looking for.
Great, thank you very much. So let's go to the next question. Question number 3. What experiences have helped you dip your toes into something that makes you feel fulfilled? So I think basically what we are looking for is, was there an inspiration of some kind, or some experiences that you have had which really made a big difference in the career that you are pursuing right now? So let's go with Lauren K. first, and then we will change the order a little bit here. Lauren K., it's your turn now.
Okay. Um, I think it would be really hard to ignore international experience as something that feels really fulfilling. Uh, a quote I read a quote just yesterday that said, "When you don't know what to do, travel." And there's something really interesting, and I think actually the Smith School does a really good job of encouraging that global experience. And before COVID, we were on our way towards, in many ways, becoming global citizens just by means of like how travel has become a lot more accessible. Of course, that's not necessarily synonymous with affordable, but there are so many paths we can take to gain international experience. And whether it is like a subsidized trips through the Smith School, or a number of organizations that you can sometimes get partially funded or fully funded for you on a global scale. I think international travel, if you can find international work, even better. But international travel is incredibly fulfilling because it gives you brand new perspectives on things that you might think you have the full picture on already. And I also think that I don't want to give too like esoteric examples, but like jumping over a fence of fear is a really good way to feel fulfilled on the other side. So something that scares you, whether it's traveling alone or taking a job in a city you've never been to or never lived in or don't have friends in, whether it's, like doing a road trip, there's so many different ways to just get a little taste of fear, even if it borders on safety. And I think those are really good ways to push your boundaries to help us all understand what works for us. I also think this is one last thing. This is kind of maybe an odd example, but for me, as I mentioned, I started my career at Pepsi and I learned a lot of great things there, but one of the most valuable lessons I walked away with was what doesn't work for me. And that actually ended up being incredibly fulfilling because half a decade later, I don't remember how old I am or how long ago I graduated, but half a decade later, I think I am still taking that with me. I still know what kind of manager I want to be to my team and what kind of manager I don't want to be. And sometimes that lesson about what I don't want to be, what I don't want to take on, what doesn't work for me is way more fulfilling and impactful to guide me into new decisions, new directions, and just new ways of making an impact. So maybe three kind of like weird examples, but hopefully helpful.
That's a great insight. That's fantastic. In fact, I've had experiences like that. So what kind
Yeah.
of, jobs I shouldn't take as administrator, which could
Yeah.
lead me into some problem. That's a great one.
I
Catherine,
also want to be
yeah, go ahead.
careful because
Uh-huh.
if I don't know what the age breakdown is or demographic is of, the our friends on this call, and I don't want to discourage anyone from opportunities they may have signed up with or internships or jobs, they're interested in taking. It's a fabulous company with an incredible portfolio, and I have a lot of friends who I started working with there in 2013 that are still there and could be lifers. So, like every opportunity is different for everyone. So just want to put that caveat, that PSA in there.
Yeah. No, I think it's a question of, it's a personalized
Yeah.
experience, right? It's
Yeah,
all different for different people as to what they feel. And you may
exactly.
have different strengths and weaknesses, and that
Exactly.
dovetails with the, opportunities that you get.
Yeah.
Yeah. Catherine, why don't you say something about this?
Sure. I think the moment that forced me to realize I needed to kind of change the topic of my career was election night 2016,
Mm,
where I just like cried all night, really. And the moments after it really, like it brought, I feel, America to its knees because but it also forced us to realize the injustices that were just buried, I believe, and they all came to light. And it, I think, in the end, is going to be better for all of us. But that led me to moving to 617 Media Group, and I've led some campaigns that have just been fantastic. And one of them was with this organization called Green Soul Organics that was trying to fight against the war on drugs that started in the 90s and still going on. And you have tons of African American men who were put in prison for smoking marijuana, which tons of people make millions of dollars on now. And in Cambridge, Massachusetts, they were trying to get economic empowerment applicants, which would be people of color, give them applicants before, white men and women could get them. And the city of Cambridge was going to go back against that and give the applicants to whoever could afford it, which would obviously exclude people of color mostly. And we did a protest in front of the Cambridge City Hall. We went to city council meetings. We started a website. We, did all this stuff, and we ended up winning. And, now at least 5 minorities will get an opportunity to start their businesses before others who, basically already had medical marijuana dispensaries, but weren't gonna even capitalize more on the opportunities that they have. So it's like, I would never have thought to work on something like that if I hadn't been forced to by all the craziness that happened during the Trump administration, honestly. And I know that doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but sometimes it takes those really traumatic experiences, to me it was, to force you to actually step up and do something. And I really appreciate the opportunities I have. And I guess I, thank goodness in a way that he was elected, and that, we're going to turn a corner and hopefully be better for it.
Great, thank you. And sometimes shocks like that really does help, takes you out of your comfort zone and start thinking about, new things that need to be done. And that's a very nice insight. Neha, so, you can talk about the experiences that you have in India with respect to this as to, what made you fulfilled.
Yeah, and that was actually pretty much my turning point, probably when I was 19 years old. I used to live in Mumbai, away from my hometown, from my family. So I used to live in a dorm during my college, and there was this huge fire that broke in Mumbai on one fine day, and it went on for 3 continuous days, and nobody, in the city could understand why this was happening. And I remember the dorm was really facing a huge issue there, because I don't know, we were filled with smog for like 3-4 days a week almost, and I wanted to really understand where this was coming from. Eventually understood it was coming from a dumping ground in Mumbai, which is Asia's largest dumping ground. And I actually went to see everything there, and because I really wanted to see what's up and what's happening. And it was essentially, just imagine a 20-floor apartment, but there was no apartment. There was only waste till the 20th floor. And that's when I realized that I was never responsible about the waste that I was generating. Once it was out of my house, it was out of my mind. And I think that was that one experience, as Catherine mentioned, one of those, extremely moving experiences that just like changed my life. And that's when I really started working with organizations to develop products that help people recycle in their house. Eventually started marketing them. So there's no way, you can escape from marketing. I feel like that's a go-to, because you have to build your brand to make people trust you. But I think that's when I knew that I need to do something that's much beyond just generating revenues or just generating profits. It had to be something that really changed the world. And it was those 7 days living in the smog.
Great. No, that's fantastic. So let's go to Lauren Wittig. And Lauren, please do talk a little bit about the book that you wrote.
Yeah, thank you. Those are all really great experiences from the 3 panelists. And Neha, actually, Mumbai was one of my favorite places I visited. I remember in India, there was in Goa, which is on the southwest side, I believe. Yes. There was this activation where all of these youth gathered old bottles from the side of the road and created a tree of life. And it was bottles surrounding a tree, and it was a carpet, and it was this whole installation because they wanted to take action. So really cool to hear about your story. And those are the types of things I wrote in my book. So kind of breaking it into 3 parts. The first would be my book, like Lauren said, traveling, of course, pushes us all out of our comfort zone and helps us to learn new things and meet new people and everything like that. But it also really helped me to see how fulfilled I was when I was meeting with people that are doing good and the stories that you hear from them and what they've done to start up their own business or whatnot. There were so many small world stories. There was this calligraphist in Tokyo that I took a class from, and the proceeds from his classes went to give education to youth in Southeast Asia. And I walked into the room and he had a polo on and it said like Oak Hill, and that's where my family grew up going in Rochester, New York. And he had a client there, and just kind of bringing those human storytelling elements back together and finding out all the good people are doing in the world was really an exciting thing to relive as I was writing my book too. I think PK, like you're saying, the longevity of an experience too that you can continue to reflect back on is really key. The next thing kind of like that, and like Lauren had said about traveling, but moving around a lot. I've lived in 7 cities in the past 7 years, so a lot of nomad lifestyle, one being in London, the rest being in the UK. But because of that, I've really adjusted quickly. I remember my first role, I graduated Maryland, I was getting placed in the Unilever program, and I found out 3 weeks before where I was moving, and all my friends were moving to New York, and I got an email and it was like, "You're moving to Minneapolis." And I remember saying to my mom, I was like, "I don't know how to spell Minneapolis, where am I going?" But being able to just have that flexibility in life. I moved to Chicago to work for this nonprofit. It wasn't in my plan, but being fulfilled in that way of what kind of opens it up to you. And another thing that wasn't really in my plan was the diversity of experience at my nonprofit. I was really used to working with corporations, with brands, with standard processes. And coming to we.org, we do things for families, for youth, for teachers, for international communities. And part of the role is running different events when we're able to be in person, or running speaking tours for youth, or running a campaign in retail. And I quite literally dip my toes in backstage as I'm running around with different youth speakers and partners, and helping speakers on stage, like a 5-year-old kid talking about the impact he was making in his community. And it's not something I thought I would have experience in, and it was definitely not where my comfort lied. But I think kind of dipping your toes in different things and trying it out, and seeing how it will fulfill you is great compass for your future.
Great, thank you. Now, I want to go to question number 5 before we go to question number 4. And the reason is that I want to make sure that I ask this question to you guys. Can you go to question number 5? Yeah. What has been your favorite marketing initiative or campaign that has delivered value? And how did you measure these key results? Now, I'm going to ask you, how did you measure value? Because many of your experiences that you talk about are in the case of doing social value as well as dollar value or any other metric. So I really want to know from you guys, what exactly, how was value measured, and what was your favorite marketing initiative or campaign on based on which you measured the value that was important for that? So let's go with Catherine first.
Sure. So last year, I had the opportunity of leading a team at the agency I work with putting on a presidential campaign, a presidential event where we invited candidates on the Democratic side to speak. So we had Tom Steyer and Andrew Yang, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, and I had the responsibility of going to Philadelphia, leading the team and getting the candidates to be there, working on articles in the Philadelphia Inquirer. And we focused on union workers. We wanted to educate them on what the Democratic candidates were standing for. And so we had more than 2,000 people there. We, did all the social media. We had to, I think Bernie Sanders wanted a special type of water or something, but it was, dealing with all those different logistics. But it just felt so good knowing that, the everyday worker who works so hard, in a union was going to be educated by these, candidates, and that the candidates actually took the time to go there and to talk about what they wanted to do for the country. And I think for this example, when I measure results, it's because we win. And I mean, obviously, we won this. And then for all the other campaigns, I mentioned the, economic empowerment applicants, we won that. We did a campaign last week for the MBTA, which is the train system in Massachusetts, to get funding not cut, and we won that. So we, knowing what corporations are going to do to push back on you, you kind of can take that and you can win campaigns, and you win it for the people who don't have the means to do it. So I think that was the most challenging event I've ever put on, and definitely one of the most fulfilling as well.
Great, thank you. Lauren Kay.
That's so cool and so inspiring, Catherine. I can't wait to ask you more about that another time.
Yeah.
One of my most favorite marketing initiatives that I actually put into motion really recently is we were trying to figure out how to expand the idea of being like a wellness-oriented hospitality group, and obviously offering food and restaurant, services and hospitality, and really align ourselves with the wellness industry and not just the hospitality industry. And that's really tricky if you're at a company, to figure out how to realign and cross industry boundaries can be kind of tough to navigate. So something we did recently is we added this, still working on the exact name of it, but essentially it's a nutrition preferences button or widget to our website, and we're about to relaunch our app for our restaurants to integrate this into it. But our restaurants were founded on 100% gluten-free like 6 years ago, when being gluten-free wasn't necessarily as trendy. We're founded on the belief that this food should be 100% gluten-free, but it's really widely accepted and loved by all people with all different types of appetites. So we realized that our gluten-free community, was comprised of people with autoimmune diseases and celiac disease, and just, anyone who was experiencing inflammation issues, maybe in their gut. So we started thinking about all the different ways we could reach out to our community. And again, marketing always, in my opinion, a lot of the times comes back to community and building it, and loving it and caring for it, and trying to really reach to our community to meet them where they were and with what they needed. So we added a nutrition preferences button. So instead of being able to just sort by gluten-free, you can actually sort our whole menu by gluten-free, dairy-free, egg-free, soy-free. And then we start expanding into, the different wellness trends like Whole30, paleo, low FODMAP, keto. I hope it's not just jargon to everyone on this call, but if you're, studying nutrition in any capacity, it really comes down to how you nourish your body. And so we wanted to make that more accessible and easier for our community. So we're starting to integrate it with our entire digital ecosystem. So, of course, some of that is click rates and just the whole slew of digital marketing metrics. But on top of that, and what's most important to me and what I try to remind my team about, because I don't want to diss this in any way, but digital marketing is absolutely the way of the future. And so those are that's table stakes. That's sometimes low hanging fruit because it has to exist for us to measure our impact. But, something that you want to continue to try to track is the emotional attachment, that not just brand loyalty, but brand attachment, at least for a brand like this, where, you're working with tens of thousands of audiences and community members. And so for us, it was also about, who from our community is writing back to us to thank us for this, who from our community is taking this feature that we've added and bringing it into a Facebook group of thousands of people who align with their autoimmune needs, and, introducing this concept to all of the different people across the country who could be impacted by it. And more exciting for me, because our Little Beat restaurants, there was 16 of them. With the pandemic, we've rearranged a little bit. So, 16 and counting. Little Beat Table, we've got 3, but Le Pan Quotidien, we're going to be now having about 60 units, which is huge. So we get to take this feature, bring it across the aisle to our now sister restaurant, and impact hundreds of thousands of lives with something like this, and make it easier and more accessible for people to really track their health goals. And so this was a really, really exciting initiative that I've been working on for about a year, and we're finally launching it to the public.
Great. Yep. Fantastic. Neha.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite campaigns, and this goes back to what Lauren has been saying, that marketing is so much related to community building. One of the projects that I was leading was with Tetra Pak, the manufacturer, where essentially every carton that they were manufacturing, they were liable to recycle. And we were running this whole campaign on ground in Mumbai, where we were educating consumers, the end consumers, that they had to recycle these cartons. And we had set up a whole supply chain on the back end on how this can be recycled. So they basically just had to get it back to a grocery store, and everything else was being done by our team. Eventually, these cartons were used to make furniture. And I think one of my favorite campaigns, this was just before coming to the MBA program, was when we started making school desks out of this and giving it back to the underprivileged schools across India. I think it was like a 45-day campaign, very high decibel, on ground, digital, but we reached out to about 4,500 students and gave desks to 4,500 students, which is not a privilege, unfortunately, in India. And I think that's one of the most impactful, and that's probably how we measured impact, which was great. So it was never monetized in any way, and that made me really love the project. Of course, it came with the overall marketing impact as well, right? So if it was digital, it was always about impressions. If it was on ground, it was a lot about foot traffic and how many people are signing up for the program and how many people are becoming aware of the brand and everything that communications department asked us to do. But the fact that we could also translate it into something more tangible in terms of waste definitely made it one of my favorites. And Lauren, I think Le Parc Cotillon was actually one of our partners in it, in the sense that all the cartons that they were using in their kitchen, they used to recycle it and send it to, basically collect it and send it to us. And we used to recycle and then donate desks in their name.
So cool. By the way, you say that so well. It took me months to get that down. Wow.
Oh, did I say that right?
So well.
Yeah, I made sure that I learned that from the manager there, but I think it was a great partnership with them.
Great, thank you. And before we go to Lauren and people who are in the audience, if you have any questions from our panelists, please put them in the chat. And after this specific question, we will go to some other questions you may have for specific panelist members. Thank you. Lauren, it's your turn now.
Great, these are all so cool. I'm feeling so pumped. I would say mine was from our We Teachers program with Walgreens, which was 2 years ago. So Walgreens at the time was declining in sales and facing a lot of big competition from obviously things like Amazon, Target, etc. So we came with them with a proposal to do a program at Back to School that would differentiate them to the consumer and focus it around cause and having a purpose. So this was around the time of a lot of things on like Ellen and in the news about how much teachers were spending out of pocket on their own dime for their students. So we proposed a program called We Teachers, and the program was twofold. One was in-store and two was the actual impact delivery. So the in-store component was with over 100 brands participating, brands like Pepsi, Hershey, Newell, et cetera, kind of everyday items that moms in particular would be buying back to school. And the purchase of these items would give funding to teachers for impact delivery. So it's kind of a 6-week in-store takeover and really resonated with consumers and team members because they really cared about teachers at that time and they were already purchasing these items. So why not give an impact? The impact delivery in particular and specifically was in terms of helping teachers with critical social issues that matter most and basing that really in trauma-informed practice. So things like well-being, pandemic, anti-racism, bullying, things like that, where teachers need support on lessons to engage and teach their students, and also awards and actually funding to shop at Walgreens for classroom supplies. And similar to the other panelists, we've had to really pivot in the pandemic, but in a way that still is serving teachers and their students. So how we can do virtual events, how we can provide funding so that they can drop things off for their students at a distance, things like that. And in our first year, we were able to engage over 60,000 teachers, which that had formerly taken our organization 20 years to do. So the scale of that corporate partner was really powerful. And we've seen incredible outcomes like teachers feeling more equipped to teach trauma in their classrooms and how to respond to it. So it's been a really empowering program and a way that we can continue to support teachers, especially now. I think one of my favorite things was we actually doubled our at-cash donation. So you've all probably done that where the person is like, do you want to donate $1? We doubled it this year to last year, even in the pandemic. So I think that really shows the heart and kind of, Catherine, like you were talking about America coming together, like people, even in really hard times, are supporting those that really do a lot for others.
Great, thank you. Let's go to question number 4 now. And, briefly, if you can say within less than a minute, how have you made, and it can be just an example, right? What is the positive impact you made in your surrounding communities using marketing? Just one example from each of you, because we are short of time and we want to have some questions. So go ahead. Let's start with Catherine.
Sure. A quick example, I think I've given a few, but we're launching a campaign against Amazon, actually, in a small town in Massachusetts. They want to build a facility there, which would help with the economy in the town. But Amazon doesn't address the economic effects of it, the negative impacts there, as well as the worker conditions. And so it's not that we don't necessarily want Amazon in the city, but we want them to step up and provide worker protections. You've seen a lot of stories recently about people not having the necessary PPE or, safeguards against COVID that they need, and a lot of workers at Amazon getting sick. So we want them to guarantee those things, as well as guarantee that they'll do everything they can to protect the environment while building these facilities. So an interesting thing is that you have to legally send Amazon everything that you're going to put out about them. So that's like something new that I learned, but we haven't heard any response from Amazon. And so they will be coming under fire soon.
Okay. All right, Neha?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I think for me, working in a startup organization, 80% of the work was really building the brand and the marketing aspect of it. But overall, over 2 years, ever since we developed a composting product, which was 100% sustainable, no energy used composter, we were able to recycle 400 metric tons of waste in those 2 years. And these were all done by individuals, so not by like a huge company setting up a base, but by people like you or me in our balcony. And I think that sort of made a huge impact overall in my heart, as well as I think to the environment. So yeah, that's my 1 minute pitch here.
Right, okay. Thank you. Lauren Kay.
Something that actually just came up as an opportunity for us, which is really exciting, is the opportunity to open what we're calling a community restaurant. So it's the opportunity to open a restaurant in a food desert in the New York City metropolitan area. So a restaurant that normally, would open in a community where normally the average socioeconomic like average household income there would not necessarily come to a restaurant like ours based on our average ticket price, but we can lower prices, sell more at cost, and subsidize through some of the more profitable stores, possibly even venture into like a food truck type of thing, so that we don't have to pay for the brick and mortar rent, which is, as you can imagine, exorbitant in New York City. So the opportunity that, as you do good and become profitable, give back like almost immediately as soon as you can.
That's great. Yeah. Lauren Wittig, last word.
We did a cool program with Lipton, which is a Unilever brand, and we tied their #1 SKU, which is a 100-count Lipton tea, to giving opportunity, which was financial and literacy training to women in Kenya. And what was really cool about it is our marketing was entirely storytelling based. So featuring the incredible women participating in this training and the outcomes it had had for their well-being. And people for the first time were talking about Lipton tea, which was really cool because it had been such a staple brand, but not really one talked about. So I think when you're authentically leading with stories about why you're partnering, why you're doing that work, it can go a long way.
Great, thank you. You know, when Nima asked me to be a moderator, I said, you know, hey, I don't know what questions to ask and I don't know what I'm going to be telling, but I really enjoyed this time. And it broadened my horizon, you know, and I must say, you know, I'm a little, you know, for example, I'm from a different generation, if you were to call that, and my son went to school with Nima. They were in the same undergraduate program at Smith, and so sometimes I talk to my son, and he comes up with these value statements, which I said, where did you get that from? Now I understand. So there's a community out there. I think you guys are really expanding, and I really am very glad to see you guys go out and make a difference in the world. And this has been a great experience. And in fact, when I teach these days, I do have towards the end of my course, I keep saying to people that you have to make a difference to the community, because you know what firms have found out that you know that is the right way to do business. You know, giving back to community is the right way to do business. It's not just profit, it's not just stock prices and so on. And I think this is a great experience that you guys are having, and you guys are making a big impact. And some of our you know, audiences want to connect with you, so I leave it to Nima as to how you want to arrange that connection to happen, so that people can ask questions, any other questions they may have of our panelists. Again, thanks again for this time, and thanks for everybody who being here. And over to Nima. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for making this a reality. It's been a complete pleasure having you. I'll pass it back to Gabriel also for any last AMA logistics.
Awesome. Yes, thank you to all the panelists, Nima and PK. And I think Dwayne put in the feedback form, so if you all can fill that out before leaving. And yeah, thank you again, everyone, and have a great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye.
Everybody.
Thank you
Bye.
guys so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.